Introduced in Halo 3, terminals are bonus story content that players can find in many of the Halo games. In the case of CE Anniversary, these video terminals flesh out the backstory of 343 Guilty Spark and his 100,000 years of solitude on Installation 04. Mostly. Stick around after the guide for more on the story, but for now let's dive in. There's one terminal on each level, and the terminals can only be seen/accessed in Anniversary mode. So if you want, play in classic graphics, then just switch to Anniversary mode for the terminals. The first terminal can be found on the Autumn's Bridge. When you come to the bridge, take the path to the left and you'll find 3 stations. The middle station is unoccupied. This is your first terminal. Incidentally, you can grab this both before and after the cinematic where you meet Captain Keyes and he gives you his supposedly empty pistol. The second terminal can be found after the first major battle, where you protect Marine survivors from the Pillar of Autumn in the cave that's not a natural formation. Before you get to the light bridge section, there's a ledge you would normally jump over. Instead, follow the intended path around and you'll find the second terminal in a small alcove. The third terminal can be found on the bridge for the Truth and Reconciliation. After you've boarded the ship and fight your way through it a bit, you come to the bridge where you fight an elite zealot. Once the room is cleared, you can walk up to the central platform, and the terminal is at the flashing center section of the holographic display. Our fourth terminal can be found in the center of the Silent Cartographer's Island. After you're locked out of the map room and have to find a way to deactivate the security, you come to a circular structure containing a pair of hunters. The terminal can be found under an overhanging bridge-like structure here. The fifth terminal can be found near this large strut outside the pyramid structure containing the control room. Upon approach, walk into the hole that the strut runs into. The terminal is underneath the strut. The sixth terminal is a bit more difficult to get to than previous ones and more easily missed. During your escape from the flood containment facility, there are 3 elevators you take. At the third elevator, you'll find the terminal on top of the doorway you just came out of. Activate the elevator and time your jump, jumping from the platform to the ledge to get the terminal. If you miss the jump, simply reload your last checkpoint. The 7th terminal is located on the 3rd floor of the library. When you emerge into this central area, you can look down to confirm that you're on the 3rd floor. Directly across from you will be the terminal. You'll have to crouch jump over these barriers to reach it. Crouch jumping is rather simple, though it may take a few tries to get a feel for it. When you jump, click the left stick to crouch. By default, you have to hold the stick to maintain your crouch, but you can change your crouching behavior to toggle in the game's menu. But once across, you have your 7th terminal. The 8th terminal can be found at the very start of the level 2 betrayals. After dealing with the Sentinels, walk all the way around the circular platform in the control room to find the terminal. Nice and easy. The 9th terminal is found in the room where you find Captain Keyes absorbed into the proto-gravemind. When looking up at the central platform, turn slightly to the right to see a crevice in the floor. In there on the left wall is the terminal, a flashing red holographic panel. You can grab this before or after the cutscene where Chief punches Keyes' skull in, but I'd recommend grabbing it beforehand. Afterwards, you're assaulted by tons of flooding Covenant. And the 10th terminal can be found on the 2nd floor of the Cryo Bay. After you enter the bay, you climb up one of these ladders and head into the control room. On the back wall is a flashing computer screen. This is your terminal. And that's all for the terminals available in Halo CE Anniversary. Each terminal gets you an individual achievement, each with its own pun of some kind. Pillar of Autumn gets you the Arrival achievement, pretty obvious. Halo gets you the Sacrifice achievement, referencing the dead troops at the start of the level. Truth and Reconciliation gets you the Splinters achievement, which I think may refer to the Covenant AI 343 Guilty Spark converses with in the terminal, but I'm not sure. Silent Cartographer gets you the Idle Hands achievement, which would seem to be double layered. There's a potential joke since a cartographer's hands would be anything but idle. Most likely, though, it refers to 343 Guilty Spark and him trying to find things to do to keep himself busy over his 100,000-year isolation. Assault on the Control Room gets you the Hitchhikers May Be Escaping Convicts, a reference to Halo 3 ODST's Superintendent AI, an AI who controls New Mombasa from its own control room. It also refers to Sadie's story, the stand-in for terminals from that game.
Damn thing. Hitchhikers May Be Escaping Convicts.
343 Guilty Spark gets you the Barely Contained achievement. The pun here is double layered. Barely Contained referring to the Flood escaping, but the spelling of barely referring to Greg Bear and his Forerunner saga of books, which actually reveals the origins of both 343 Guilty Spark and the Flood, among other things. The Library gets you the Quis Custodiet Ipsos Custodes achievement, and I'm sure I butchered that. This Latin translates to Who Watches the Watchers, a play on Who Watches the Watchmen. Typically meant to reference putting checks on those in power, this references an increasingly rampant 343 Guilty Spark. Two Betrayals gets you the Memories achievement, appropriate since the terminal is 343 Guilty Spark reminiscing. Keys gets you the Mind Game achievement, again appropriate since it gets into Key's head as he's being absorbed by the Proto-Gravemind, itself a giant mind, essentially. The Maw gets you the Kilotons of Fun achievement, I think that one is pretty obvious. And Finding Them All gets you the Dear Diary achievement, an appropriate name given how many of these terminals are almost literally diary entries or log entries from Guilty Spark. The story told in these terminals is a fascinating one, telling, for the most part, the story of 343 Guilty Spark during his 100,000 years of solitude, from the activation of the Halo array to Installation 04's destruction. One of Halo's most enduring mysteries actually arose from these terminals, a ship that crashed on Installation 04 40,000 years before Halo CE. In addition, we get to see what Spark was up to during the events of Halo CE when he wasn't on screen, reaching out to a Covenant AI when the Covenant broke quarantine, or trying to threaten the Pillar of Autumn to stay away before realizing it was a human vessel. However, what may be the best terminal has nothing to do with 343 Guilty Spark, instead depicting Captain Keyes as his mind is being absorbed by the Flood, Keyes doing everything he can to resist. This moment was pulled straight out of Halo the Flood, and Pete Stacker, the voice of Captain Keyes, brings this moment to life. It's a gut-wrenching terminal to say the least. Now, we've talked about the 10 terminals that one can find in-game, but there's actually an 11th. When CEA originally came out, there were codes at the end of each terminal in a Forerunner language. Incidentally, these codes could be translated, reading in order, 343GS, Halo 4, Spark, Flood, Earth, Demon, Ring, Array, Human, Haven. The codes at the time could be entered into a terminal on Halo Waypoint's site, unlocking the 11th terminal, which depicts 343 Guilty Spark escaping the installation as it's destroyed, his travel to the Threshold gas mine that we visit in Halo 2, and his meeting with the future heretic leader, Sessa Refumi. Sadly, these days, the only way to view this is either on YouTube or the Halo channel. With CEA now updated to play the terminals directly in-game rather than through the Halo channel app, maybe 343 could eventually add a section to the MCC menu for replaying terminals players have found and have the 11th terminal available to watch. Probably not, but maybe. So, that covers the terminals. Hopefully this guide was helpful, and I hope that you stuck around and enjoyed the deeper dive into everything at the end. Later this year, I do hope to do a complete history of 343 Guilty Spark, so look forward to that. But for now, this has been Halo Canon, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and if you really love me, hit that notification bell and leave a thumbs up. These both really help out the channel. I wouldn't be where I am now without your views and support, so once again, thank you. Keep on being awesome, Canonites.